Welcome to another live stream, my friends. Bitcoin continues its nice little rally since finding weekly support, but does this actually mark a new bottom, or will this just be a short-lived relief rally? I myself still have my concerns that this rally will not last, but I'll get into that in a little bit, and I am happy to be wrong on that, and it's not impossible that we do end up breaking the downtrend. So that being said, looking at the 4-hour chart, we still have a nasty downtrend with a confirmed lower high currently sitting around 93,200 USD. So I still want to keep a level head and basically assume that the trend is still to the downside, even when we get these beautiful little bounces like this, you guys. That basically when we do get back to resistance of the trend for its retest, it's basically time to take caution. So once we start hitting, the STUBER fib here, maybe even going towards that lower high and even the swing fail fake out kind of a zone there. Also, we have this MDX resistance down here as well. So there is still a lot of resistance up basically starting now, but more so when we start getting up towards about 90,500 US dollars. But yeah, like I said, the actual micro lower high on this trend is about 93,200. And although eventually, guys, this trend will break, but for now it's been very juicy just as a trend to be shorting these types of setups to the downside. And basically in my Telegram, guys, I have been talking about this and showing these types of setups, just trying to keep a level head in these kinds of market conditions. And guys, my partners at BloFin are currently giving a special sign-up bonus for a free position to my followers. I've been trading on BloFin myself for over a year now, and if you sign up with my affiliate link, you also gain access to my free Telegram channel. So if you're sick of being completely blindsided by the market, FOMOing into tops and panic selling bottoms, you just want to see more examples, how I pull fibs, how I look at market structure, some of my setups, and so on, do yourselves a favor and get into my Telegram by scanning the QR code on my BloFin poster here, you guys. Like I said, just showing many examples of how I'm looking at market structure, how I'm pulling fibs, all that sort of good stuff. Very basic market structure and keeping things simple, because at the end of the day, that's what we need. We need some sort of trade setups that we can actually stay systematic and keep our emotions out of it, just trading the charts for what they are. So that's what I aim to show how I'm doing it there. But yeah, guys, on the 4-hour chart, like I said, MDX Trendmaster now starting to show us a little bit of resistance. But again, I think just from naked price structure, I mean, I would expect us to get up towards about the 786, around 90,500 US dollars. But let's hop over to the weekly chart, because we do have the weekly candle close in a little over an hour here. Like I said, it is nice to see that the bulls have shown some signs of life here, right? The fact that we ended up getting a nice little bounce off the 886, which if this were a 5-minute chart, right? I mean, you guys know I like the 886. I have concerns about this setup in general because we already lost the micro trend. So it's possible that this isn't actually a valid STUBER, but it is still a nice support zone. And it's nice to see that we're seeing signs of life there. My big concern about this is that we had this upward trending support line, and it's very possible that after losing that, we're going to see that flip into resistance. Another thing lining up with that would be, as far as if we were playing this like a bullish STUBER type of range, that the 0.5 fib would be my first target in that case, which would be lining up around 100,000. So still a nice move to the upside if we get it. But it's very possible we would just hit that one target and then continue the move to the downside. Because also, if we look at the log scale, same thing. This one was actually respected a little bit better. We had more touch points from the support side of things. So same thing, though, it would just push a little bit higher. But same sort of deal, that if we do get some sort of a bounce, I would be nervous that the old level of support would be flipping into resistance. And something lining up with that from a horizontal point of view would be this fact that, hey, as I mentioned, we lost this micro trend here, right? We had this high here, this higher high. This was our confirmed higher low on a very micro trend on the weekly, though. But since we ended up losing that, if I were to look into play this as a STUBER setup, let's say on the 5-minute or something, I would be looking for a pullback towards this zone here for a resistance retest, basically. So that's where you will see that if we end up getting a retest close to all-time highs like that, you are going to see the FOMO go absolutely nuts again, just like we did the last couple times we had tried to break out of all-time highs. So just understand that the whole idea is why I use fibs and why I wait for these structure breaks like that is just to help me basically prevent me from FOMOing into positions. And if anything, looking at resistance as a sell level. You know, if I happen to have some long positions running at that point, yeah, that's where I'll be looking at taking some serious profits, maybe even hedging into some sort of shorts and stuff like that. I don't want to be the guy, even though it's possible that it breaks out, right? Anything is absolutely possible. But I don't want to be the guy FOMOing long into resistance, especially when it's horizontal resistance, diagonal resistance, just a possible downtrend, even a timing resistance, right? The fact that previous market cycles, the past two previous market cycles, basically from bear market bottom to bull market peak, ended up being about 152 weeks, the last two cycles. And that's basically, well, that's the exact timeline that we got where we started losing very serious weekly structure on the chart. So basically what needs to happen right now is if the bulls can actually push us through and new all-time highs and start staircasing the price to the upside, in that case, it's very possible that we actually broke that 4-year cycle, in which case, maybe in that case, we are getting an extended bull market in this case. But as it stands right now, I just have very serious concerns about the market structure, just because, like I said, at the very least, we need to see some sort of a lower high broken on the 4-hour before we get too excited about anything, right? So I am not considering this a lower high. If anyone wants to, was going to point that out or anything, just because we never did set another lower low, right? I would need a lower low confirming this as a lower high on the trend, but it hasn't held as a lower high yet. So our last one is this level I mentioned right at the start at 93.2K. So basically, if we end up breaking that, it's possible from there, at least that's a bullish sign that we've broke the downtrend. And then if we start staircasing higher, absolutely fantastic. But even if we just break above it and see a rejection, at that point, I would still be strongly considering the possibility that it's just going to be a support retest, because we would still at least have that broken structure on the trend. And we would just be potentially getting some sort of a retest, and which would basically be an opposite STUBER fib, right? Like, let's just say we end up trending up to here. There's a lot of big what ifs between here and now, or here and then, but just kind of planning ahead here. So if we do get that bounce and break that structure and get something like that, at that point, I would be quite excited to take a stab at some longs in my STUBER fib zones. I would be looking to ladder in something like that in that case, but we just don't have the structure for that yet. That's my only thing. Let me know in the chat how you guys feel about the market. Do you guys think that, you know, we are about to reverse to the downside again? Do you think we're about to go parabolic? Do you think that we're going to trend up a little bit just to retest this resistance and carry on to the downside? I'm just curious to see how everyone feels about this. And guys, if you do appreciate that, just coming in here and seeing these streams pretty much every day and actually being able to keep a level head in these crazy times in the market, and you just appreciate, you know, looking at the charts for what they are rather than all the hopium and the fundamentals and the announcements and all that sort of stuff. If you just truly love looking at charts for what they are and trading them, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. If you're serious about trading and actually wanting to trade market structure rather than emotions, you're in the right place. So really appreciate having you guys here. Hopefully you're all doing fantastic. I hope you're absolutely crushing it out there. Can I take a look at Zcash? I absolutely can. Just give me a moment though. One other thing I wanted to talk about with Bitcoin actually was the long short ratio. You guys, this is one thing that makes me think that we could still push higher, right? Basically at this point, it looks to me, and I mean, I guess this is going to refresh in a little over an hour here when the daily candle closes. But as it looks right now, retail has at least given up some hope on trying to catch the knife and long this dip. And they're starting to FOMO into short positions. You can see that the retail shorts down here are starting to climb. So as long as retail now thinks that, well, there's no way that we're actually going to recover here, so I'm getting into a short now, even though it's way too late for a swing position like that. As long as they're starting to build short positions, then we will likely see the price continue to climb and continue to see a nice bounce out of this market. But as soon as retail gets FOMO thinking we're going to all-time highs again, and we start to see a bounce in the retail long positions, at that point, I would think we're going to continue the downtrend. Bitcoin on the lower time frames here on the 5-minute, you guys, this is another strategy I talk about all the time. Obviously, the MDX Trendmaster indicator on the 5-minute. So notice that after we did test that weekly level, we started printing higher trending buy signals and sell signals, basically. We had one little fake out here where it started going to the downside. It did push to the downside for a little bit, but then we ended up printing more higher sell signals, higher buy signals, and still trending to the upside. So at this point, I see no real reason why Bitcoin needs to reverse right away. And I still think that we're on our way towards at least that STUBER fib on the 4-hour that I was talking about. I actually did have some long positions laddered. I never ended up getting them, but I had a bunch of orders laddered in my support pockets down here yesterday, because I was willing to look at this as, you know, even though I'm not bullish on the trend, looking to play a long setup for what it is. And the fact that we had a low and a lower low here, we had a confirmed lower high on the trend. So at that point, I was looking for a long setup, something like this, from the lows to where the price was at the time. And notice that's where my purple box, the 786886, and my green box, the 1 to the 115 for a swing fail zone, I was looking at laddering into some long positions in those support zones. But unfortunately, the price never pulled back that far before continuing to the upside. So unfortunately, we don't always get the trades when we have our setups, right? But it is systematic, and I like waiting for those pullbacks on those positions. So unfortunately, missed those. I mean, there was opportunities to scalp to the upside, right? As I talk about quite often with this MDX Trendmaster, as we print higher buy signals, for example, that just gives you kind of a new confirmed higher low on the trend. And often it will point at you in a very nice trend where you can scalp something like this as well. I haven't been watching the charts as much the last couple days, but I just figured that the volatility would basically slow down for the weekend, which it did. And today it's finally starting to pick up again. So at this point, I mean, it really looks to me like we're still trending up to that 4-hour resistance. I see no reason why we wouldn't, basically. Something else that I find interesting with the charts right now, guys, is the Bitcoin dominance chart. And this one actually gets me a little bit excited, because I've been saying that for a while now. Even if Bitcoin has topped, and it's hard to say if it has or not, right, guys? I have invalidations. Obviously, anything can happen. If we just break that downtrend and start trending to the upside, anything is possible, right? But what I love to see is the Bitcoin dominance right now with the MDX Trendmaster on the daily time frame has recently got a lower sell signal. Now, generally speaking, when we see the Bitcoin dominance dropping off of a cliff, it is very good for the market as a whole, specifically altcoins, because that means that bigger money is starting to get a little riskier. People are willing to diversify and get into the high risk assets like altcoins. And even if Bitcoin just kind of gets little bounces, just trends kind of healthily sideways, as long as it's not nuking, basically, then that gives altcoins an opportunity to really go for their nice runs, right? I've been saying for a while now, I think that it's not off the table that altcoins do get some sort of a nice finale run this cycle, if it's going to be anything like the last couple cycles. But obviously nothing is guaranteed, so we're going to have to see. But a signal like this, even though it hasn't triggered any sort of a dump yet on this chart, it's something to watch for right now. If Bitcoin dominance starts dropping, that'll be such a good sign for the altcoins, in my opinion. Altcoins are very much in a similar situation as Bitcoin, though. Like if we look at Ethereum, same thing, right? We have a low lower low, that means we have a confirmed lower high on the trend. So even if we do go a little bit higher, just understand that there is some resistance up ahead, basically starting around 29.60, somewhere in there, up to about 31.30, basically. So there is potential resistance if it ends up going to the upside. So just understand that it is risky. But if altcoins can start breaking some of these resistance levels and Bitcoin dominance continues dropping, even whether or not Bitcoin ends up breaking resistance, I mean, it could be a nice sign for the altcoins to start doing things. So I'm actually more so interested in looking for long positions on altcoins at this point going forward. So I will be taking a look at some altcoins when I'm looking through and posting things in my Telegram channel, posting signals, that sort of stuff. On the 5-minute, I know earlier, I actually never caught this one. I did have it mapped out. Basically just another typical STUBER fib, right? The fact that Ethereum here had a high on the 5-minute and a higher high, pulled a fib from the lowest point between the two, boom, hit the 786, 886 fib pocket absolutely perfectly. And we have since hit the first two targets. So again, I never took that position, but that's just a very classic setup of the STUBER fib strategy that I show in my Telegram all the time, you guys. So for now, I mean, it still looks not too bad to me. It's just that it has hit the obvious targets as far as any lower time frame setups there for me. Solana, very much the same thing, right? Again, we have a lower trending. Well, we just have a downtrend. We have a low, we have a lower low, we have a confirmed lower high at approximately 145 US dollars. So even if we climb a little bit higher, I mean, we're already at the MDX Trendmaster resistance, but there is technically, as far as Fibonacci levels, I would say the resistance more so starts around $139.60. Somewhere in there is where I would be looking for. So again, much like Bitcoin, you guys, there is a lot of work that the bulls have to do, but at least there's some sort of warning signs. You know, the fact that Bitcoin did get a bounce off of a nice level. Again, I don't know if it's necessarily going to hold. I wouldn't be too surprised to see us basically consolidate for a month or two before continuing to the downside, kind of like some sort of a bear flag that would give us a chance to basically chop around sideways a little bit after a big move. That's definitely something I'm considering. And if that happens, if Bitcoin just kind of trades sideways a little bit, that's just another point to be made for, I think that would give altcoins a chance to move for a few months in that case. And that could be, although not necessarily good for Bitcoin, it could be good for the altcoin market in that case, right? So I don't want to say all hope is lost, right? I know I come off as quite bearish in my videos, but that's more so just specifically when looking for a new all-time high with Bitcoin. And again, I could be wrong about that. As if we end up setting new all-time highs and we start trending higher and staircasing higher, boom, we'll just start playing pullbacks on the long side of things then, just like we did on the short side of things when we would basically short the retest of resistance. In that case, I will be looking to long the retest of support levels, right? Sorry, I haven't looked at Zcash yet, so I'm going to look at that one first, and then I will take a look at Aster real quick. I noticed the Zcash price, and that makes me think that the STUBER fib played out again. Oh, it did play out. Interesting. So yeah, I did point that out. Again, that was another trade I never did take. I was more so looking for a retest of my red pocket up here just because we were retesting that fib pocket again. I thought that it would push a little bit higher, so I never did take a short there. But it looks like the STUBER fib did play out there, right? Just another typical example of that, where we had basically on the uptrend, we had our higher high, microstructure, but it doesn't matter, right? We had that break, and that's where you pull the fib from the basically our new pivot point down to just chasing wherever the price goes. And we end up coming up to this fib pocket, had it play out once already, right? We ended up getting the full fib pocket fill. We got the 786 and the 886 and hit the first entry. I did play that one. I never played the second opportunity though, and it actually would have hit both targets for the range. And from there, I would basically be hoping to just hang on to a position and see what happens, because since the move as far as a range has played out already, at that point I would be hoping for a breakout, but it's a little bit risky at that point, right? With the trend master, we do have a sell signal on the 4-hour, but obviously if we end up printing a new buy signal, it would be a significantly higher buy signal, in which case it could be a warning sign that the bulls are coming back early. But at this point, yeah, there's a couple red flags on this chart. Aster has a little downtrend now going on here. It did break its uptrend. I was looking at this earlier this morning, and you can see that I have already mapped out my bullish levels, basically, is that if we pull back at this point, like Aster, honestly, although I think that right now, yeah, it's in an immediate downtrend on the 4-hour, which I will show in the microstructure in a sec here, but it's actually got one of the nicer looking trends out of a lot of coins that I've been following recently. So it's actually been performing quite well. Even the fact that when Bitcoin was dumping off of a cliff, I mean, Aster was just flying to the upside. So it actually looks pretty good, but I do think it could pull back a little bit further, because just looking for basic market structure, basically, if we're looking at this was our low. We had a lower low. This was our confirmed lower high. We've obviously broken that level. So at this point, this is basically my new bullish pivot point, right? Just to really break down the structure of why that's my pivot point now, and a confirmed pivot point, basically. So that's where I'm pulling my fib from and just chasing the price whenever I'm just basically looking for it. I don't know if we're going to end up hitting my purple box down here, but if we do, it would be a buy level for me, basically. Same with the green box down here. The purple box would be my STUBER fib zone, and the green box would be my swing fail territory, basically. So yeah, I think it's possible that it could continue trending to the downside, though, and fill those, because just looking at the trend for what it is, basically, if you wanted to say, if you were really micro-analyzing, you could say high, higher, high. We lost that structure, and technically we did start a downtrend from there. So I don't know if I can really argue with that. But looking at it with a little bigger consolidations, let's say this one with our high, this our higher high, we lost this level as well, right? And since doing that, we have this low and a new lower low on the trend here. That means we have a new confirmed lower high, would be the highest point between the two, something like that. So basically, unless we would invalidate this little mini downtrend that we have right now, if we invalidate that, sure, we could just start trending to the upside again. But at this point, I would expect that even if we got a bounce, I would be nervous about resistance, something like this, and even interested in playing the downside, something like this, because I really do think at this point, unless we invalidate this, I would say that we're on our way down to retest support of the range, basically. Hopefully that makes sense. Nuno or Mr. Martins. Don't know what you want me to call you there. I'm not going to name your whole name there. But I love to hear it. That you love the strategy. Hopefully it's just helping with your analysis. It really just helps keep a level head, right? That's the thing with fibs. That's why I love Fibonacci's. It really helps keep the emotions out of it, because you have your levels there. You have your entry levels, you have your take profit levels, you have your invalidation levels. You're not going to win every trade, but it's also, it helps control those losses as well, right? Thank you for always helping us keep a level head, thinking we may see a little relief bounce. Absolutely love to be here with you, and thank you for joining my live streams. Love that you appreciate what I have to say. Love to see it, you guys. Love to see so many familiar faces. I see you guys in here basically each and every day, so thank you so much for always joining me for these streams, you guys. Troll was another one that was a coin of interest to me. I've been talking about this one on a lot of recent streams as well. For the first time since starting its big ass downtrend from basically it did like a 25, 30x, something like that, and then started a very large downtrend after that. but it's been controlled in very much so a falling wedge type of a pattern. And you can see that I marked out all my lower low levels. Whenever we got a lower low here, that then confirms our lower high on the trend, right? Here we get another lower low, we confirm our new lower high up here. And basically that trend has not broke until we've started wicking above it the last few days here. So yeah, we don't have a clean daily break on this structure yet, so it is a little bit early to say. But even where we're finding support, it's the order block that sent us through all-time highs, that sent us parabolic on that run there. So to be respecting that support right now and trying to break this downtrend, basically, you know, things aren't looking so bad there, in my opinion. Obviously, it's very high risk. It's a low market cap. It's only about a $40 million market cap. It's a meme coin. But it is my meme coin of choice personally. Not financial advice. Do your own research. It's the only one that makes sense to me from a fundamental point of view with meme coins. But yeah, looking at the daily, basically, it's at least flirting with the idea of breaking out. So far, it is just fake outs to the upside, but it's the first time we've even seen that on this downtrend. So just a little bit of signs of strength. And also on the 4 hour, I pointed this out on my Twitter and in a couple places. But basically we ended up also getting a bit of a STUBER fib pullback, right? This white line, that is that daily line that I talked about. We only wicked above it on the daily, but on the 4 hour, we actually got candles breaking and closing above that. And even though that was a break, notice that we still got that pullback, right? Come back to the 786, 886 fib pocket. And it has technically hit the first two targets, right? If we were looking at it as a typical STUBER fib setup. So will this actually hold? I don't know. I have no idea, right? But as far as looking at it, if the market sees a recovery, if altcoins end up going for a run, you know, there's a lot of what ifs, a lot of stars need to align. But I think there's potential there. SPX, I will take a look. The SPX, okay, interesting. So technically holding my STUBER fib setup that I laid out on the 4 hour chart for this, as in we got a swing fail here, right? So I don't really trade the SPX. I don't look at it as much as I look at crypto. So I don't know how well it respects, you know, swing fails and stuff like that. So we do have this swing fail, right? We held the 1 to the 115 fib pocket here. So it's technically at support. However, technically it is lower than that low. So even if it gets a bounce, it's possible that we end up seeing resistance, basically, if it's going to form some sort of a downtrend. There is a warning of that. And even the fact that we have this sell signal on the MDX Trendmaster, although same thing, it's obviously in a very strong uptrend. That sell signal is big time fighting the trend. But there is a couple warnings there. Gold, I think, looks like I still have this mapped out from last time I looked at it for you. Yeah, gold still looks like it's in a downtrend to me. It just, when we ended up basically losing that parabolic run, we broke a lot of structure to the downside. We started printing just a few warnings, right? We ended up, even on the 4 hour here, we have a lower trending sell signal on the MDX Trendmaster. If we end up breaking through that resistance, there is a fairly clean shot up to the purple pocket here. But just understand that there is resistance up ahead. I personally think that gold has topped. But obviously anything can happen. I personally don't trade gold. I don't look at it very often. But as far as basic market structure, those are a few things that I'm noticing right now. So guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So one last time, if you did appreciate this live stream and previous live streams, please do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And just remember, for those of you interested in learning and seeing more examples of some of my favorite trade strategies, my partners at BloFin are currently giving a sign up airdrop for my followers, which also gets you access to my private Telegram, where I share some of my trade setup ideas, how I use Fibonacci's, how I look at market structure, give more of my thoughts on the market in general. So if that's something you're interested in, do yourselves a favor, get in my Telegram by scanning the QR code on the BloFin poster on the screen in front of you. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Thanks so much for watching once again.